All right, I think we're good. I'm gonna
You
go
get
live.
mine ready to
All right,
go.
it's now streaming into the group. So if you can go live, right now on your side, Neil. I go
Okay.
live on mine. Hello, everybody. This is David Stephen Patterson here with Neil Lebovitz, and we are going to be talking about found marketing made easy. Welcome, Neil. How you doing, man?
I am doing fabulously well, my brother.
Excellent, excellent. Well, so here's what we're going to be doing today. Today, we're going to be talking about marketing made easy. For those of you folks who aren't familiar with what we're doing, this is lesson six, and actually, it will be lesson six and seven of our Foundations Live series. Foundations Live is our new recruiter training program, completely for free in the syndicate training area. Right today, we're going to be broadcasting directly into YouTube as well as our two Facebook groups, URSA as well as HERC. And we're also broadcasting into the syndicate.chat platform. If you want our past sessions where we spoke about how to map your market, we had a great mindset lesson, but and as well as some recruiting lessons, as well as our future lessons where we talk about, say, deal management, how to prep, how to debrief, how to close deals, etc. Go to thesyndicate.chat. In fact, I'll have my assistant drop the link in the comments for both Herc and Ursa, as well as the YouTube stream. Okay. So, with that being said, let's rock this out. And I'm going to share with you I'm going to share my screen here in just a moment, and we're going to dive in. Um, Also, just so you guys know, this is going to be a double session. We are going to be uh, um, we're going this is a big lesson. This is originally going to be one session, but because it's gotten so big, we're going to do two sessions. So we're going to do the first half today and break for a little bit of Q&A at the end, and then we'll do the second session tomorrow. Or not tomorrow, I'm sorry, next Friday.
Not next
Before I
Friday.
begin though, Jaja,
Next
do me a
Friday.
quick favor.
Oh, is it next Friday or is it the third?
Next Friday, next
Oh,
Friday.
next
Yep.
Friday. You're correct. Next Friday, we're still on. It's not Christmas yet.
Yep. And so, Jaja, do me a favor before I go. Make sure give me a quick confirmation if you can. Make sure we're live in the Herc and Ursa.
Hey David, we're both live on Herc and Ursa,
Excellent. All right.
and YouTube
Let's
too.
be all right. Let's begin, guys. Let's talk about marketing made easy. Now, before we dive in, I want to bear with me here. Here we go. Before we dive in, I want to first talk about if any of you folks want to work with us. Now, for those who don't know, I run a company called the Digital Headhunter, and we build sales and marketing systems for small search firms and independent recruiters. And you can go to the digitalheadhunter.com/build if you're interested in working with my company. Or conversely, if you're looking to get some start working with staff augmentation, contracting, business, in, in, uh, in essence, temporary staff, charging hourly. If you've ever thought about getting into that, but you've been scared because of the workers' comp requirements, the insurance requirements, all the paperwork, and all the headaches of having to fund payroll before you get paid. If you want to avoid all of that, go to backofficenow.com. That's Neil's company, Back Office Staffing Solutions. Neil, anything you want to say about Boss before we dive into the marketing?
No, just you need to dabble at least in temp. We'll help you do it. We've got a team of consultants that'll help you do it. And if you need funding or if you don't need funding, we can do it. And if you're already your own employee of record, we can accommodate you with the greatest technology that's out there.
And it's about as turnkey as you can get. I mean, really, there's no other solution that's as turnkey. And on top of that, and I'm selling it here for you, Neil, but really, but I'm doing this because it's legit. They've got this really cool app, a mobile app, so you can brand it with your colors, your logo, and so from a client-facing perspective and candidate-facing perspective, your candidates can enter their timesheets in, your clients can approve it right there on the app. It's super cool. It makes you look a lot bigger than you are, and if you want to compete with the big boys next year. It's not just about the back end part of it, but it's also about the front end look and feel and looking a lot bigger than you really are. So Boss has that already set up for you. So
Thank you
anyway,
so.
with that being said, let's dive in, shall we?
Now this is David's baby today. Mine was the last session, and I'll be adding color commentary. So be prepared for the DSP show with a lot of
That's right.
DSP.
It's today Neil will be my Joe Rogan adding his color commentary. Here we go. Marketing made easy. So basically the problem is you have to figure out a way to break through the noise in modern recruitment because the it's really hard to break through the noise. There's so much going on. There's so many recruiters out there that are email marketing, LinkedIn marketing, so many automations out there. It's really hard to break through the white noise. All right. And so what we're going to be talking about today is how to do that. And so this is going to be a practical guide. It's not going to be like super in depth, but this is going to cover um, all all the main points I want to cover when it comes to marketing, right? And then during the lesson, I'll show you some different ways that you could dive further in with some of our other training material. But we're going to learn how you can stand out in a crowded market. And it is going to be a very crowded market next year because there's going to be a hiring boom. I really do believe that. Um, uh, I'm going to show you how to master multi-channel marketing campaigns, or at least how to think about them, how to put them together. We're going to talk about building sustainable client relationships, and a lot of this comes down to the value that you're adding to them, not just throwing them resumes, as well as how to create predictable business growth. Because at the end of the day, if you're not prospecting, you're not marketing, you're dead in the water. The pipeline that you have 90 days from now is a result of what you're doing today. Really, really key. So let's talk about today's agenda. Agenda over the next, say, 2 sessions, rather. So we're going to talk about, again, the challenge of modern recruitment marketing. I'm going to give you a very brief introduction into the Lighthouse Method and how it applies to marketing. And of course, I can have Jaja, when we're done, drop the link to a guide that I have that goes much further in depth on how to implement the Lighthouse Method into your practice. We're also going to talk about something that is very rarely talked about in this space. I call it the 4 power moves, the 4 power moves of successful marketing. Um, then we'll dive into some more specifics on campaigns, specifically campaign types, different types of campaigns, how to implement them. We'll talk about introductory campaigns, what I call sniper campaigns, also top of mind campaigns. We'll talk about different types of sales meetings, different marketing channels, and some other integration data points. And then lastly, some practical implementation strategies. We'll likely be wrapping it up today when we wrap up with the campaign types of implementation. And then next session will be more about the different types of sales meetings, how to conduct those, etc. All right. So let's begin. And if you guys can do me a favor, by the way, if you're watching this live on YouTube, Facebook, or whatever, I can't see your comments right now. That's why we have Jaja, our assistant on the line, who's going to be, and she's our course community manager, who's going to be monitoring comments. But if you guys can let me know, you guys can hear me. And if you are excited about actually putting some marketing muscle into your practice, then maybe comment, I don't know, comment muscle. All right. That'd be just to make sure that I know that you're hearing me and that you're getting into the training. Okay. Need some marketing muscle into your practice. Uh, let's talk about breaking through the noise. So here's what you're faced with. Your average decision maker receives about 100 plus recruiter messages weekly. And that's going to be a combination of voicemails for those recruiters brave enough to cold call, which is kind of a dying art, honestly, which is sad. And we'll be talking more about that. But from cold calls, LinkedIn messages, email messages, heck, maybe even smoke signals. I don't know, but they're getting over 100 messages every single week, and they're all saying the same thing. We find the best candidates. We find them faster. We have more experience. Or even worse, we're cheaper. Ugh. Um, I just puts a bad taste in my mouth just even saying that. But that's the situation that you're in. And on top of that, what most recruiters do, and maybe you guys on this call are doing the same thing. Hopefully you're not, but I see this all the time. This is an actual message that I got because I get messages from recruiters thinking I'm a potential client, right? Because they're mass spamming at the market. And here's a sample message that your prospects get. Hope you don't mind me emailing here, but this is Bob with XYZ Search. The reason for my email is we're getting some candidates that look to be a good match for your company, and we'd like to see if we could start a working relationship with you on potentially sending over candidates when the need arises. Open for a 5 to 10 minute call to discuss how we can help. Respectfully sent, lazy copy and paste recruiter. Obviously, I added in the lazy copy paste recruiter and didn't include the name of the person that sent it, but your prospects are getting messages that look something like this almost every day, right? And so if you do the same thing, what are the odds that you're going to break through? And when you say that you find the best candidates or you have the perfect candidates for that company, what are the odds that they're going to take you seriously or they're not taking the other people saying the exact same thing seriously? So we'll talk about how you can help break through that noise. Because when they get these messages constantly, there's message fatigue, there's recruiter skepticism, right? We're all saying we find the best people. So obviously they're skeptical. And most clients have had bad experiences with bad recruiters. So, of course, you're going to be skeptical. And so your prospects have this default delete response. It's kind of like when you're checking your voicemails for the day and you hear somebody on the voicemail that says, uh, hello, this message is for Bob Evans. This is David Patterson with the Kinetic Group. I'm calling because when you hear that, what is your first response?
You
Delete.
but not first response. You constantly delete. Everyone deletes it. You just
Yeah,
use it.
exactly.
You didn't listen to it.
Exactly. Because it's you sound like a telemarketer, right? At the end of the day, you sound like a telemarketer. So we're going to talk about systematic approach to stand out. Now, I do want to cover this very quickly, just as a little taste of kind of my overall method before we get into the specifics. And if you want to learn more, I've got a guide that you could download where I dive super in depth on this. But basically, what I like to call the Lighthouse Method, that's my own name for my method or my marketing philosophy. But in essence, there's two core principles for you to be the lighthouse in your market. The lighthouse meaning where everybody can see you and you're the source of light and you are the destination and you're standing strong, right? You're kind of the authority in the market. To do that, you need two things: relevancy and omnipresence. Relevancy just simply means making your prospects care about your message, right? So just being saying the right things, speaking to their pain points, etc. As an example, again, I get emails from people trying to pitch me because they think I'm a recruiter, or people trying to pitch me because they think I'm a potential like a client hiring. I had a lead generation specialist reach out to me thinking I was a recruiter because he probably scraped my LinkedIn profile and asked if I was interested in getting 3 to 5 new high ticket clients every month or something like that. And by him saying that, he told me that, oh, okay, you don't know anything about our business because recruiters don't say high ticket clients. We say contingency. We say job orders. We say engage search, retain search. You're not using the language that we speak. And by doing that, you're telling me you don't get our business. You probably work with coaches and consultants because that's what they say. So being relevant is important. And we'll talk about how to do that in your messaging. Okay. Omnipresence is being consistently top of mind, right? That means you're posting content on LinkedIn. You are consistently emailing and messaging your prospects because over time, when you first time you email somebody or cold call somebody, they're likely not going to need you because they already use a recruiter. Maybe they don't have a need right then. But what about when their favorite recruiter craps the bed? or can't do a search or isn't working out for whatever reason, or maybe they weren't hiring before, but now they are and they need a recruiter. Are they going to go to the person that just happened to email them that day? Maybe. Or more likely to you because you've been in their inbox for the last year, consistently adding value, consistently talking to them, and they see your content on LinkedIn. You're engaging with their post, they're engaging on yours. You are an authority, right? And so that's comes from being omnipresent, right?
Yeah,
Being
and David,
everywhere at
nothing
once.
wrong with being at the right place at the right time. You know, it works. And when you're
100%.
omnipresent and you're constantly doing what David's talking about, you're gonna get someone where the recruiter did crap the bed that day. And because you just messaged them today, you're at the right place at the right time. Statistically, X% will turn out that way. It's a small one, but every blast I ever send, we get someone saying, "Oh, your timing's perfect. Did you read my mind?" You know, it's no, 99% of the other people either ignored it or it was bad timing, and it's just going to be keeping me at top of mind for the future.
Exactly right, Neil. Thank you for that. And actually, you're 100% right. You really should be using a mix of strategies. In fact, we'll be talking a bit later in this session about what are called sniper campaigns, where you can actually use these campaigns I guess you could say, snipe or to be very precision oriented with, let's say, an NPC or going after a client with a job lead, or maybe there's a situational event that triggers a reach out, like a company going through merger acquisition or a new leader just started, and you can call them, right? And use that as a means to get in front of them. So, yeah, definitely for sure. It's really a mix of both. You want to blanket, but you also want to think about the spear. Um, so, if you can be omnipresent relevant, what it does for you is it helps build trust at scale. It creates a lasting impression. It really kind of breaks through the white noise, and also it generates consistent leads. And it's the long-term strategy here, right? It's just over time, just consistently being in front, being in front, being in front, being in front. That's the key to having consistent lead flow, and candidly having more leads than you can handle. Because I don't know about you, but I'd rather have more leads than I can handle than not enough leads. But if you want more information on that, on the method, just the theory of it and how to implement it in your practice overall, and I get really nerdy with the science behind it, um, you can download the Lighthouse Method guide. So, Jaja, when you get a chance, if you could just drop the link to the landing page for the Lighthouse Method where they can opt in and download it. All right, so now let's talk about the four power moves. This is how I want you thinking about your day overall. Okay. Basically,
And let me just chime in before we move on to the
oh,
next
sure.
slide. There's a technique I taught people about how you stand out. And as David said, you know, anything that anyone else could say and does say, don't say it. It's just a waste of breath, and it's everything that David talked about. Um, and anytime I'd work on cold calling marketing and I'd have people come back with their bullet points or their scripts, it would sound like a script. It would sound really boring and just like everything you constantly hear. And the method I was taught that I used to espouse is pretend you're at a bar with your best friend, and they're like, dude, you know, DSP, what's going on? You're killing it. What, you know, tell me about your job. Why are people using you and not someone else? And you're like, oh, you know what? Because I've placed everything under the planet, and then I ended up specializing in widgets. And if someone wants to know what's going on in the widget world, that's me. Okay, that's your cold call. That's your cold call. The stuff where you're passionate about that really makes you stand out. And you say it passionately. You don't sound like a script when you're at the bar. Well, the reason we stand out is because we really care about customer service and we find the best of the best amongst mediocrity. Like, give me a break. All right. Wanted to share that little nugget.
Well, actually, Neil, you're right. And to piggyback off what Neil said, um, yeah, you want to be passionate, and you want to use general language. You want to be very specific. In the language that you use, you're going to be talking specifically about their business and talking about them. And the passion you have is the passion of solving their biggest problems when it comes to talent, or really when it comes to solving their business problems in general through the application of talent at the right time. So yeah, definitely have to be passionate about that, very much so. All right, let's talk about the power moves. So these. power moves I want to share with you are your only revenue generating activities. Nothing else matters to the bottom line. Nothing else. Okay. And this applies both to your client generation as well as candidate generation and everything in between. It all comes down to these four power moves. They got to be performed every single day if you want to grow your practice and be healthy or financially healthy. And these are not your maintenance tasks. So these aren't your admin work. It isn't checking social media, or as I like to call it, dirt scrolling when you're on your Facebook feed and your mind goes dir because your brain shuts off while you're scrolling, and the next thing you know, you wasted a half hour, right? So checking social media doesn't count. General emails or being in your email inbox and just in general, unless you're specifically trying to get somebody on the phone, uh, um, that doesn't count. Billing, paperwork doesn't count. All right. So let's talk about the first power move, and that is going to be hunting. Or in essence, this is your active lead generation. And again, you can take this and apply the exact same thing with recruiting, right? In this case, hunting is trying to get in front of as many high quality and high value prospects as possible with the right message at the right time. So that means maximum qualified touch points. And so by touch points, so that means LinkedIn outreach, reaching out to people on LinkedIn, your email campaigns, making cold calls or even warm calls, direct mail, if that's in the strategy you want to employ, which by the way is surprisingly effective nowadays when nobody else is willing to send direct mail. Okay. But then also, let's talk about metrics. So when it comes to hunting, I like to think about it in terms of how many touch points are you making with your prospects monthly? Now, that 3 to 5,000 prospects monthly sounds like a really big number. Obviously, there's no way anybody can make that many cold calls in a month. Maybe if that's all you're doing, but you're trying to run it at desk at the same time. That's where your email automation comes into play. And by the way, for some of you recruiters out there, maybe you have a very small market of just a couple thousand hiring managers, right? Others may have 7, 8, 9, 10,000. What I've generally found is a mid-sized practice will generally have between 3 to 5,000 prospects in their market, not companies, but we're talking hiring managers or HR, as the case may be, for these client companies. So you may have, let's say, 1,000 companies, and within there's 3 to 5 prospects or touch points on average within each client company or prospect company, for example, right? And so this is where mapping your market comes in. So if you want to learn about that, go check out our prior lessons where we actually talk about how to map the market and get that data. Now, I like to systemize things. So when you put your campaigns together, I like to think about breaking it up into cohorts of about 1,000 each. It makes it manageable. So this month I reach out maybe to 1,000 prospects, my email automations, and then get them into my drip campaigns. And the next month I do another 1,000, introduce myself in my campaigns, which I'll talk about here in a little bit, and then put them into my top of my campaign, right? Now I've got 2,000 people in total, and they get another 1,000, right? That's how you want to think about it. You want to chunk this stuff up. Try to do it all at once. It's going to be hard to manage. Um, Also, when you think about your success rates, um, what I've found is that generally speaking, you might get out of 1,000 people that you reach out to, if your messaging is really good, you might get a 0.5% to 1% booking rate, right? It doesn't sound like a lot, which is why you want to do this at volume, right? And this is your general campaigns, not your specific campaigns. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Also, that number will vary over time. When you first start your campaigns, probably be even lower than that because no one knows who you are. But 6 months in, a year in, 2 years in, that'll bump up accordingly because people start to know who you are, right? You start to develop a brand and some name value. Now, I will be talking about a special campaign called the Leadership Campaign later on in this session, and this is where you are using the carrot of the hiring manager's own leadership career as a way to get them on the phone, right? And from there, you can flip the call into a sales call or lock them down as an NPC. For obvious reasons, you can consistently count on 5 to 6 times uh, 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 higher booking rate for leadership calls because obviously you're using that as the carrot, right? So that's kind of a special case. Normally, 0.5% to 1%, you're doing pretty good. So that is the hunting piece of it, right? And
Yeah,
again,
and let me remind everyone, David, of what we've talked
mhm,
about in previous sessions, which is, you're always supposed to be sourcing, always getting job leads, always getting candidate leads. When you need to decide who are going to be these people on the hunting that I'm going to make the cold calls to, that I'm going to make myself accountable for more than one left a voicemail or sent a text message or reached them out on LinkedIn. But when you find these leads of companies that are using your competitors that pay a 25% fee, they can't be thrown into 5,000. Let me just shoot the shit and see what hits. Those are the ones where you're going to have that accountability and where you could actually pick up the phone or get creative at 5, 6, 7, 8 different ways of reaching this person because that's where the gold is. And it's juggling both of these simultaneously, in my opinion, that lead to the real gold on the desk.
100%, 100%. Thank you, Neil. Also, Judge, do me a favor. I noticed you've got the killer sales guide in the chat, and I was going to actually have you do that as well later on. But if you can also put in the if you could do put in the landing page for the Lighthouse Method guide as well, if you could. Um, all right.
It's
So,
already there.
oh, not
Yep.
the just the killer sales call guide, but the Lighthouse,
Yep.
not the link to the not the access link where they could go right to the PDF, the landing page where they can opt in for it, if you could.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. And then take out the TLM access if you could. Um, all right, so where was yes, the next power move. Next power move is going to be advancing. So what advancing is just simply moving conversations forward. That's it, right? It's converting interest into meetings. Because look, at the end of the day, when you reach out to prospects, they're not going to just book a call on your calendar. You've got to they may respond back positively, semi-positively, maybe they tell you no. And it's the art and science of building interest and chasing them down and getting them on the phone. Just like a recruiting campaign. You send out, let's say, 100 emails for this position that you're recruiting for. You're going to get some that book call right away, some that reply back and say, well, maybe can you talk to me then, or what's the pay, or what's the location, or can you tell me about this? And you're going back and forth, and you're trying to get them on the phone so you can get them into your recruitment campaign, so you can screen them and potentially send them off to your client. Exact same thing applies when with your prospects. You want to make sure that you're not losing leads because oftentimes somebody replies positively and then you forget to reply back or you kind of move on to other things. Next thing you know, that lead that was hot a week ago, now because you've made no effort to consistently get them on the phone, it grows cold. They never return their calls and you lost a potential client or potential lead, right? So every single day. You want to make sure you've got a list of all the prospects you're trying to get on a call that have expressed any interest in you, and you want to reach out. So whether that means creating follow-up sequences, where you put them into a special messaging sequence where you're doing like a daily follow-up, if you want to automate it. And it's also getting them on the phone to try to qualify them, right? Just like in recruiting. You may not get the resume right away. You might have to talk to the candidate for 5 minutes, do a quick qualification, and then they send you the resume, and then you can screen, right? Um, Obviously, getting meetings scheduled, as well as providing value demonstrations. What I mean by that is sometimes someone might show a little bit of interest, just a little bit, not much, and it might take a few emails and a few warm calls, or maybe sending them an article or a guide to kind of demonstrate your experience and that you're a valuable contact to sell them on getting on the phone with you. All right. So that is advancing. At the end of the day, it's just moving those conversations forward. And so what you want to do is to get them on the phone if they show any interest. If you're having a hard time, make sure you focus on things like pain point identification. Understand the pain points of your market. So as you're justifying getting them on the phone, you can refer to those pain points that they may or may may be experiencing that you can solve, right? Making sure that if you're talking about your solution in an email or in some sort of messaging conversation to get them on the line, making sure that your solution is in alignment with whatever problem is. You got to make sure that you actually can help them solve whatever pain they experience. Next step, clarity, right? People just don't want to jump on the phone with you to shoot the shit. They don't got the time, and you're probably not that interesting, right? At least not to them right now. So provide clarity on what those next steps. Let's jump on a call and talk about XYZ. Let's jump on a quick conversation and talk about ABC, right? Be clear with what you are planning to talk about in those conversations. And relationship momentum. You got to keep the momentum. When somebody replies back to you, you now have a relationship. It's a small one, but it's something,
Yeah, but you know
right?
what? It gives the owner that they're going to take the call or they're going to feel guilty about not doing it. If you don't do that and you say, all right, well, let's touch base again, my favorite term, let's touch base again. No more base touching. Let's touch base again in 2 weeks or in a month. Why? To cold call me, or like what's a purpose? Like, who wants that? And when that time comes, if there's no clarity on this, of the next steps, you just risk getting blown off.
100% right. Yeah, it's clarity. It's a big one. And back to the relationship momentum, like I said, when they respond back to you, there's a little bit of relationship there, but it it does. Just like as if you've ever heard of training when it comes to closing deals here in this business, you hear this term a lot. Time kills all deals, right? Time kills all deals. Well, same thing applies to this relationship. They reply back with maybe a little bit of interest or whatever, but every day that relationship grows weaker. If you wait 5 days to reply, they probably have forgotten about you at that point. So keep the momentum going, right? Be the driver of that momentum. Don't depend on them to drive that. Okay. So that is advancing. Um, Next is going to be farming. This is your long game. This is building long-term value by creating content online, or as my dad would call it, on the line. Anyway, silly boomers. So building long-term value. That means just content creation, creating content, building your authority, whether it be creating posts on LinkedIn or articles or what have you, but creating long-term value. Okay, so content creation, distribution, network stimulation. That sounds kind of weird, but here's what I mean by that. Let's say you've been busy connecting with, let's say, accounting leaders, right? You're an accounting and finance recruiter, and you've got these connections, right? And you're pushing out content. Well, pushing out content that is top 7 hiring mistakes that accounting leaders make might be okay, but there's a million of that out there, and it doesn't really do much to stimulate your network. But let's say you put out a post or piece of content that talks about, maybe tackles one of the big myths in the space, or that maybe kind of be fairly controversial. Now you're kind of stimulating your network more. They're paying attention to you. So whenever you're putting out content, you want to think about, is this going to stimulate my network? We're going to talk a bit about content towards the end of session 2, where I can talk about how you can do that. Value delivery methods. That might mean industry insights, market trends, best practices, and success stories, right? Success stories from your clients, case studies, testimonials, etc. Ideally, you want to be doing this over time, because as you build your authority, you got to be consistent, right? Consistently posting articles and posts. You got to make sure it's valuable, and I don't have it here, but entertaining is just as important, because not entertaining, they're not going to pay attention. You want to be a thought leader and use it to network strategically with your prospects. Okay, so that's farming. And last but not least, closing. That's just converting opportunities. Now, in the world of marketing, it's going to be your sales calls. We'll talk about what these sales calls look like in session 2, but in brief, I personally prefer a 3-call strategy. Being able to give multiple opportunities for a prospect to talk to you. So, for example, talent needs call. Very straightforward. You need talent. Let's talk about how I can help. It's like a sales call. Or Strategy call. Being able to offer value to prospects, even if it doesn't necessarily mean you get a job order right away. Talking to a prospect, helping them network, helping them figure out some of their recruitment issues, strategizing with them, providing salary information, whatever it happens to be. But in this business, talk to prospects as much as you can. Use any excuse you have in the book, right? So helping them strategically. It's kind of a catch-all sales call. And a leadership call, or for many of you folks, you may call it a flip call, career call. But let's say talking to a VP in your market about their own leadership career, and if it makes sense, directing them or pivoting to a sales call or locking them down as an MPC. Okay. So, ideally, you want to be engaged in these closing activities. Think about the recruiting version. Closing activities are going to be, well, closing candidates, prepping, debriefing, all those things, right? So, again, all these things apply just as much to the recruiting side of things. Okay. And so, to make all this work, think about your power moves, conducting your power moves for about at least 6 hours of the day. If you're working an 8-hour day, 2 of those are going to be your admin and email and all that busy work. But you want to make sure that you're devoting the vast majority of your day to conducting these power moves. For new recruiters, you want to focus more on the client side activities and do like a probably 80% hunting and advancing split. Okay. 80% hunting and advancing, 20% farming and closing. Because right now, when you're brand new, you need leads, right? You need leads. And the best way to get them is to get out in the market, get belly to belly, hunt and advance, hunt and advance. But still, do your farming, build for the future. As you get more established, then you have more of a balance. Spend 50% of your time hunting and advancing, and 50% of your time farming and closing. Okay. So at the end of the day, what I would suggest, give yourself a little power move audit. Did I engage in all 4 power moves today? If you did, that was a good day. All right. So let's talk about the campaign types. So in terms of market engagement, there's really 3 pillars. All right. There's 3 types of campaigns we're going to talk about here. The first, which is I guess you say the most important campaign, is going to be the introduction campaign. That means, let's say you have 500 prospects or 1,000 prospects you're going to reach out to and put in your email automation tool, right? Whether it be Woodpecker or Reply.io or whatever you happen to use, Upticks. But you're in essence, introduce yourself, right? Talk about the pain points of the experience, highlight your differentiators, and invite them to get on the phone with you to learn more or discuss more and hopefully provide some value to them. Now, there's a few different types of introductory campaigns. There's direct selling. There's a priority paying approach, which is my angled approach. And there's the leadership approach where hey, would you like to get on a phone call and talk about your own leadership career, or you might want to go, right? But whatever approach you use, personalization is key. You want to personalize this stuff. Now, I'll show you what I mean here in a little bit. We get into some sample scripts. Okay. So that is the introductory campaigns. The second and third, as you can see here, are the sniper campaigns and top of mind campaigns. So this refers to what Neil was talking about, taking advantage of opportunities when you hit somebody at the right place at the right time, right? You can't just depend on your generic mass mail campaigns. They have a place because in a lot of ways you're distributing content through that, right? But ideally, you want to be able to take advantage of opportunities as they arise, and those are your sniper campaigns. So I break those down into an MPC campaign. That stands for most placeable candidate. Some organizations have different terms, but MPC is the most common term in the business. But that's basically taking a candidate that's a top player, cream of the crop, has great skills, a lot of sizzle to the steak, packaging them up and confidentially marketing them out, right? We'll talk more about that, but those are great. That's a great marketing technique, and it can really fast track your results. Job lead campaigns. This is where you're reaching out to companies that have a job open that you find maybe online or that you hear about from somebody else. So chasing after those. And then highly targeted opportunities. What does that mean? Trigger events. You learned that Bob Evans just started his VP role at XYZ company last month. That's a trigger event. Reach out to him, congratulate him, right? Because oftentimes people, when they start at a new company, what do? They have to make changes. What do those changes mean? Sometimes changes in personnel. Perfect opportunity, right? Conversely, calling the company that Bob just left and saying, "Hey, I just heard Bob Evans just resigned about a month and a half ago. Don't worry, I didn't poach him." But, and then use that as an opportunity to get in. Merger acquisition. Um, Company has a new product launch, right? Any reason at all that you can reach out to somebody, that's a trigger event. Um, Third pillar is what I call top of mind. This is your long game. This is, in a way, it's kind of like farming to a certain degree, because while you're technically hunting, you're reaching out to people, outbound to them. But in a lot of ways, if they see your content, maybe a great article that you sent them, be a value piece of content that you sent them, it's kind of like content marketing in a way, and it builds your familiarity, builds your brand, etc. So top of mind marketing. So that means every single month, ideally reaching out to the 2, 3, 4, 5,000 prospects that you have in your market. Okay. That's how you build a relationship over time. And even if you have never talked to somebody live, when they get your content consistently, they still build a relationship with you, even if you don't know it. As an example, people jump on a call with me, like on a sales call, and they may have been in my Facebook group for a few years. They're on my mailing list. They've read my guides and my content. Maybe they bought a couple of courses from me, but I've never talked to them. Yet when they jump on a call with me, it's like they've known me for years, right? It's kind of a weird experience, but it really helps the sales process. So think about the relationship that you're building with your market as a whole, not just the relationship that you have with somebody when you talk to them live. Okay. So let's dive into. I think we'll have time to talk with the introductory campaigns. Then we'll cut it here, and then do some Q&A, and then from there we'll wrap up the other campaign types next week, and then dive into content marketing and how to tie it all together. So let's talk about the first type of introductory campaign, which is direct selling. Okay, this has some advantages and disadvantages. It's a high volume approach, because in essence, what you're doing is you're saying, "Hey, here's what we can do. Here's the pain that we solve. If you need any help, we can help. We need help, right?" It's extremely direct and it's kind of binary. The messaging focus, obviously, you still want to express a clear value proposition, so why they should talk to you and the value that you provide. Maybe talk a bit about your service, like what you do or what differentiates you from all the myriad of other recruiters out there. Making sure you express you um, um, highlight your professional expertise and having a direct call to action. Would you be opposed to jump on a call to learn more? Are you open to have a quick conversation sometime this week or next week to see how we can help you? Right, stuff like that. So here are some benefits of the metrics. So, like I said before, 0.5% to 1% meeting booking rate. Although I will say, if you're brand new, expect even maybe less than half of that, just because it takes some time and branding to get people to know you and to respond positively to this. But you might get somebody at the right place, right time. Now that said, oops. Here's an example of what I mean by like direct selling. And by the way, this is not a one and done email. You'll probably send maybe this over a LinkedIn message, maybe an email message, and then a few days later, a follow-up message, and a few days later, another follow-up message, and a few days later, another follow-up message until you stop, right? So this shouldn't be just a one and done message. So here's how this would look. So, hi, Bob. I'll dive back into personalized intro in a second, right? Give me 1 minute. I'm curious about XYZ code and how you're handling the massive talent shortage in the SAP space. So I'm trying to indicate a pain point that I'm hoping that they're feeling. Quick intro. My name is David, founder of Kineta. I'm an SAP recruiter with a deep network of available talent with a focus on those who could build and deploy solutions or products quickly. So I'm trying to demonstrate, here's my value proposition, right? I'm not just saying I can find SAP candidates. I can say, I work with candidates who can deploy solutions quickly, because that's kind of what these SAP leaders want. We work our tails off to recruit extremely hard to find SAP talent, blazingly fast, and without making you spend an arm and a leg in the process. This is my, you say, my elevator pitch. Here's the benefit we provide without you having to do bad thing. In fact, my team averages 3 on-target candidates submitted within 5 days of every search we take on. Oh, now I'm listening because I work with recruiters that they never do this, right? Or the people they send me aren't on target. Or I give them a search, I never hear back from them again after maybe they submit a candidate, right? So I'm trying to differentiate based on some maybe my own metrics. Would you be opposed to learning how we could do the same for you? Thank you, signature. And then as a PS, by the way, if you're unsure if we can get the job done for you, check what name from client has to say, and then paste your testimonial in there. Testimonials are great to add in as a PS in a selling message. Very few people ever do this, and it's extremely effective. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to add as a PS, I mean, brilliant. It's something that you always do, but you could also make that the body of your email message. You know, the lessons learned from your testimonials and what they had to say. Similarly, found them blazingly fast for me. I found that I was able to deploy quickly and do that in the sense of a reference, third party stating it is that you're stating. So references overall are tremendously valuable.
That's exactly right, Neil. Thank you. Because um, it's social proof. It's like when you go to a restaurant and and you look on Yelp and there's a restaurant with 0 reviews, another restaurant with 100 reviews. Where are you going? The one with 100 reviews, right? Um, I mentioned earlier about the personalized intro. There we go. This personalized intro. What I mean by that is this. If I were to go to my LinkedIn profile, and let's say I was trying to reach out to this handsome fella on the LinkedIn page, to me, and I want to get my attention. I might send an email that says, "Hey, I just read what Emery Long said about your ability to blah 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 on LinkedIn. Really rare to see a recruiter nowadays. Kudos, right?" Or let's say, "Hey, I just noticed that, let's say I work for a company called XYZ Co. Hey, I just noticed that XYZ Co is launching ABC product next month. Wow, it looks amazing. Kudos." Something like that. Just something that shows that you looked at their profile, you took some time to personalize it. And what you can do is you can, in essence, create this as a custom field in your emailer and just upload it along with a list of names that you're reaching out to with a quick little personalization. Now, I won't go into the details of how to do that. There's not in the context of this lesson, but it's pretty easy to get. You mention something positive about them so that you research either from about them personally or about their company. But that's the direct method. Works pretty well, but it's your lowest percentage because you're being super binary, right? It's either a yes or no, and the vast majority of people are going to be no initially. Um, Now let's get into what we call priority pain. Here we go. The priority pain type selling, as opposed to direct, hey, if you need help, we can help. Priority pain selling, and I'll end it here, and we'll continue on from the rest after this section. The priority pain, what you're doing here is you're highlighting some of the pain points that they likely are experiencing. Hey, when I talk to other SAP leaders, they're telling me pain one, pain two. What are you seeing out there, right? It's a more indirect method. And so what you're going to be doing is talking about their challenges or their pain points that they are likely experiencing. If they are experiencing, then you can help them. Whether it be hiring timeline compression, so trying to reduce their time to fill, candidate quality, that's always an issue. Scaling their team, always an issue, particularly if it's a candidate-centric market. It's hard to find people. Scaling is really tough. Market competitiveness, they don't have the right people in place. And then talking about how you could potentially solve that pain, right? Through your solution. Um, so the benefits of this is that one, you get higher engagement rates. You will see a bump in your reply rates, and you'll get in more conversations than you will direct. Why? It's because when you send this, you'll get people that will still say, we don't have any needs. We don't use recruiters because they can tell what you do by the email. But because you're going in at an angle, oftentimes they reply back and say, well, David, actually, it's this, or actually, it's that. Dude, that is a foot in the door. Get them on the phone, right? To talk about said problem that they mentioned. Okay. That's the relationship momentum that I talked about. So it's great for higher engagement. It's better qualification because you're qualified on the pain points themselves right in the messaging. Helps you get into deeper conversations. It's more consultative, and much more consultative, and it helps build trust faster because you're showing an attunement to their pain points. Here's an example of what I mean. And by the way, here's also an example of a personalization, by the way. So let's read the personalization for this particular person. Let's call him Bob. And let's say he has a LinkedIn recommendation on his LinkedIn from Rodney Reynolds. And then we'll talk about the pain points. So, hey, Bob, I saw Rodney Reynolds' recommendation on your LinkedIn profile. Innovative with a wealth of knowledge. It's surprising how few CEOs earn their people's respect enough to warrant such a killer LI reco. Kudos. Obviously, LI means LinkedIn. Quick intro. My name is David, founder of Kineta. I'm a CI OpEx recruiter with a deep network of available talent to focus on those who can build and deploy solutions quickly. That said, I'm curious if this will resonate with you. When I talk to other CI OpEx leaders, they usually focus on one of two things: filling gaps within your project teams. How can we keep our rollouts on schedule and in budget by pipelining vetted CI talent despite a razor-thin candidate pool? Or two, developing and upskilling project teams. How do we identify up-and-coming leaders who can mentor junior CI talent so we can quickly scale up to meet increasing project demands? Which of these is bigger focus for you right now? Notice I'm not asking for business. The interesting thing about these sort of campaigns, they know what you do. So they need a recruiter and you kind of catch them at the right time. They'll still respond positively. Or if they don't need anybody, they'll still respond negatively. But in addition, you will also get folks who will respond back and say, well, actually, it's this or actually, it's that. Again, opportunity to get them on the phone. And even if they don't respond, I'm trying to convey to them and get this in their melon over time. I understand your pain points, right? Because let's say they make a note of that, but they never respond. And I send more top of mind messages later on. And a few months later, they reach out to me because at one point I really demonstrated an attunement to what they likely feel. I think, I like this guy. I'll give him a ring next time I have a position open or something along those lines, right? So that is what I call a priority pain. What priority pain means simply is these are priorities that they're trying to accomplish, and these are the pain points that these are the pain points that they're looking to solve through that priority, and I can help them do that. So hopefully that makes sense. So another great benefit to this, by the way, and I'll wrap it here and we'll pick up where we left off. The other great thing about this sort of campaign, which is very subtle, and I don't have it listed here, but I'll just mention it, is objection handling. If I'm direct and let's say I say, hey, Bob, quick intro. My name is David and I do this, I do this, I do this. Would you be open to learning more? Or would you open to having a chat? And they say no. I can rebut that, but it's a bit confrontational. Versus I send this and they respond back with, actually, we don't need it. We're not hiring right now. We don't use recruiters. Well, they didn't answer my question, did they? So I could say, you know what? Hey, Bob, I didn't think you were hiring, but with that said, I'm curious. Are you feeling this or are you feeling that? It gives me kind of an opportunity to rebut back a little bit without it being so confrontational. That's another reason why I like this angle method for getting on the phone with these folks. So with that said, I'm going to wrap this here so we don't take up too much time, but I do have time for a couple of quick questions if anybody has any. Jaja, anybody ask any questions in any of the comment streams, since I can't really see it?
So Steve George was just asking if the meeting is going to be recorded, and I will send him a link soon. So That's the question
Yes,
so
Steve, it'll
far.
be. Thank you, my man. Yes, it will be recorded. We're gonna we'll leave the live stream up in our respective groups. I would say through the weekend. But then the actual replay itself, the long-term permanent replay, will be in the syndicate.chat because Neil and I and Jaja are dastardly enough to make you join the syndicate to get the long-term replay.
And
Dastardly.
also join the syndicate to get the PDF downloads of this presentation.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And next week we are going to be talking about we'll be wrapping up the different types of campaigns. We'll start off with the leadership campaign. Then we'll dive into the sniper campaigns, NPCs, job leads, situationally specific trigger events. We'll dive into top of mind campaigns. And from there, we'll talk about content marketing and then how to tie everything together. All right. And as a little preview, we are also going to be talking about cold calls, not on the next session next Friday on the 20th, but also the cold call training will be on the 3rd. So that'll be the first Friday in 2025. All right. Uh, Judge, any other questions from the audience?
Nope.
You can see?
That's it
Nope.
so far.
Excellent. Easy peasy. All right, folks. Thank you very much. Great session. And I will see you all next week. Bye, everybody.